Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lead Speak Retreat with Julie Descharme and myself, Catherine Contos. I'm so happy to have you all here. Please introduce yourself in the chat. I'd love to know where you are chiming in from, which part of the world, because we usually have people from everywhere. I'd love to see where you're from. Good morning from Costa Rica. Good morning, everybody else. Let me see where you're from. Please enter it in the chat. Colorado, Austin, BC, Washington, San Diego, Las Vegas. Keep going, keep going. Denver, Calgary, Ohio. Very nice, very nice. Well, I want to thank you all for being in here today. I see Atlanta, Los Angeles. Keep going. Thank you. I want to thank you all for being here. I want to just introduce Julie, who is a phenomenal serial entrepreneur. She has multiple businesses, and she empowers women and speakers internationally now. It was nationally, but now it's internationally. She's up in Canada and a few places across the world, leading people with their stories and speaking on stages. Julie, thank you so much for being here and co-hosting this event, which I know is going to be increasingly valuable for those who are maybe thinking about it or who are already speaking. Julie.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, Catherine, and super excited. We were just talking about our daughters both got to do a TEDx together a couple years back, and it's been really awesome to see just the evolution of what you're doing, Catherine, what we're doing, and also all the other great things. So, hi from San Diego. I know I don't have a San Diego backdrop on right now. I'm in a different space than my office, but it's lovely to meet all of you. As Catherine mentioned, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I started out as a professional volleyball athlete, moved into the colleges to coach, and got wrangled into being a professor and then eventually a dean and a president over the college. As much as I love teaching, it wasn't, I think, my main passion. My main passion was really wanting to run my companies. I got started speaking at a very young age because I was a professional athlete and a national title college athlete. So I think my first talk was in front of a couple thousand students at my old high school when I was, I think, 19 or 20 years old. And man, let me tell you, I winged that one. Since then, I've been able to grow and become as Catherine mentioned, an international speaker, writer. And I have a passion for connecting people. I have an incredible passion for empowering women. I have a 16-year-old daughter, and the experiences I had with other women really saddened me because I felt that women were not supporting each other like they should. And 8 years ago, we started leading Empower Her She Talks with the idea to empower and educate women, to bring women together and create a global sisterhood, which we are doing. We, as Catherine mentioned, we are in the United States, Canada, the UK, Australia, and tomorrow our first Zimbabwe call will happen with about 80 women in Zimbabwe. And I just have a heart for this. And so we've been putting on conferences. I've owned an event company for 23 years, a very large event company here in San Diego. And when Catherine said, hey, let's talk about retreats and speaking and events, I was like, I'm all in, because if we can help you all learn how to do that, it's a fantastic thing, and you all have a voice and you all have a story to share, and we want to help you find a way to share that story. So just a little bit about me. You can always go, you can connect with me, go to drjulieducharme.com. You can hop on there, schedule a meeting with me, connect, and be happy to dig deeper with you all.
Thank you, Julie. She's amazing. Let me tell you, that's why I'm so happy that you're doing this with us today. And a little bit about me for the people that aren't in the retreat space or are new to my world. When we speak about retreats, they're events, right? But they're events that are more global. They include travel, and they include programs that you place in there. And I've been doing this for about 13 years. I'm also a serial entrepreneur like Julie. And it was my calling about 12, 13 years ago. I bought an inn and transformed it into a retreat center for addictions and mental health. I fell very ill as soon as I opened it with stage 3 breast cancer. I survived it. And since that day, I've been very, very purpose driven. Every single day, I try to see what can be done, that we can improve this world and create impact. And that's why I'm in this space. And that's why we have a media company as well right now. There's Retreat Boss magazine, which highlights, speakers like yourself, and or people who are looking to be coaches or whatever it is that you do that you're famously known for. As well as Retreat Boss and Retreat Match, which highlights experts like yourselves to be hired or collaborate with others, either from corporations. And we just launched this recently, the Retreat Match Company. And it's a professional directory where you can reserve your venues, place your events, showcase your corporate offerings, and anything else that you do. So if you have a keynote, that's a great place to be found. So that's what I do. And together today with Julie, we're going to present you on how you can lead with your story. Because without a story, it's very hard to sell anything that you do, because how are you going to portray your passion to others? Okay, so I'm going to just take a moment to share my screen and we'll get started. Okay. Okay, so let's begin. We said all this already. So, okay, so let me just, so I could be able to see better here. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to present to you an actionable formula, a 6-step formula to help you create what we feel is going to highlight you as an expert in your world, whatever that may be. Okay, what's happening a lot, and Julie, you can attest to this too. Speaking has become extremely popular, right? Amongst coaches, amongst experts. There's TED Talks, there's keynotes, and there's a reason for it. Like, please go ahead and tell people, why is speaking so popular right now? What does it do for their business?
Yeah, well, when I look at speaking, what I've learned over the years, like I said, starting at such a young age as a speaker, is that, and I think you look at this with products and services too, right? So we want to support something that has a powerful story, right? When you think about something you're supporting, like let's talk about Tom's shoes, right? This story, it's a powerful story, but every shoe you buy goes back to help another group in need, right? So if people want to work with me, they want to know my story, right? And your story is what can create your brand, right? Who you are and what you are and why you are. Catherine talked about having stage 3 cancer and how that changed her. I have a couple of very powerful moments in my life that shifted me and what I was doing. One of them being the loss of my mom 12 years ago. There was a big shift in how I told my story from that. So the power of understanding someone and the power of your story can not just motivate people, but it literally can start a movement, right? There is a power in words that is different than a power in writing. And so if you all have a story. Some of you may need to hash that out a little bit or talk through that or figure that out. But that story is what's going to draw people to you and what you're doing.
Yeah, and the same thing with retreats, right? Why are people coming to retreats with you? Because you have a story. There's something about what you're doing is connecting with them. You're mirroring yourself to them, and that's why they come. It's very, very personal, and one leads to the other, and that's why I felt it was very important to understand that when you're speaking, it's because, and when you're creating that speech, is because you're going into that story so intricately. That you're finally engaging in your story and expressing it. And that is huge for marketing, period. If you don't have a story, you have very low value in your marketing. People want to know what your story is about. Look at the best marketing. There's always a story behind it.
Well, and if you think about too, just to throw in Catherine, like every culture around the world has a story, and most of the times they told it in some type of visual way, right? Through song, through dance, through someone speaking. And culturally, we are programmed to really see those stories that way. And retreats allow us to dig deeper into those stories and dig deeper into that, right? There's a big difference between going to like a 1,000-person conference and a 15-person retreat, right? And so there's a lot of power in that because people get to dig deeper. And, I find that people are longing for that. They're longing for the more personal, close-knit retreats. And conferences are great. Don't get me wrong, we put them on all the time for She Talks. But the last time I did a really like in-person retreat, it's like 10 people. It was so powerful and so transformational. And so I think that's really where a lot of that lies, is that people want that connect. And I think many of you may want that connect too.
Yeah. And the other thing is showing vulnerability in these talks, right? When you have a person that doesn't know how to connect with people up on stage, it's very hard for people to connect with you. But when you're being vulnerable in whatever you're talking about, whether it's vulnerable because of your story or vulnerable because you're doing something up on stage that you're like, oh my God, they're gonna laugh at me or they're gonna think I'm silly or whatever. Some of the best talks are either the really silly ones, where they really get you going and out of your own shell. And other ones are the ones that make you maybe cry or just your heart tears up listening to that talk. Either way is you're leading with your authentic self. And as a leader, okay, and we're going to go to this step one of the six steps is, as a leader, people got to understand who the real you is. They got to connect with the authentic you. And you got to break that down and see who you are. Take all the onion peels off, right? And see who the authentic you is. And there's a lot of questions we could ask and whatever to get that, because we've been programmed a lot, especially to think, especially when we're on stage, is what are they going to think about me? How are they going to feel about me? It's not about them. It's about you, and you need to lead with that mentality in your business, in your everyday life, and your personal life and your business life. I've had
Yeah.
many experiences with that, Julie. I'm sure I see you
Yeah.
nod your head. Right?
Yeah. I wrote a whole book on it, Authentically You, right?
There you
And
go.
my book slash kind of a bit of a memoir, but being raised as a tough athlete, it's very difficult to become vulnerable because that's not something that we're trained to do. And the moment I actually wrote my story, one, it was super healing to write my story. But two, when I started speaking it, which was difficult at first because, as Catherine said, you're kind of like, oh God, what are people going to think? Because I'm trained as an F to think, well, I need to be tough. I can't show any emotion. I can't show any vulnerability because that's what we were trained to do on the court. But that is truly what people want to see. The old leadership style was very autocratic, right? At the top, very hard. It's not like that anymore. People are drawn to people who really humanize themselves and be honest about it. As difficult as it may be, the more honest and true you can be with yourself and you can be on stage with people, people will flock to you, and we have stories of like our She Talkers telling their story and just people like lining up out the door because they just want to connect with that person because they're saying things like, I thought I was the only one, or wow, this is what I needed to hear. So if you can be authentic and real, there's so much power in that. But it is, I mean, Catherine, I would say it's terrifying to do that, to step on a stage, be really honest about yourself.
Definitely. I know. It is hard. It is hard. And it's hard to get out of that mentality of like, how am I going to perform? Right? Because you are performing when you're up there, but the less of a performance you do where you're just being yourself, the more it's going to hit. That's the truth. Some people are great performers. I've seen very like, it's almost like they're acting, and I couldn't connect with them because it was an acting. It was more of a stage presence rather than a person just speaking genuinely through from the heart. And so when you speak, when you're leading, and then you go to a point where you're actually going on stage and you're speaking, you're bringing your business to the next level. What you're doing is from going, let's say, one to a group of people now. Okay, how do you take advantage of this situation for your business, right? I always say put yourself in stages, and it could be technical stage or just a room like this. Put yourself on stages with groups of people, so groups of people could see you. You want to like compress time and space, right? And this is how you do it. How do you reach as many people as possible? And when we speak, we want to reach as many people as possible. That's why we're doing it. Maybe for the intention of collaborating, with other people. Maybe you have a book in the works. Maybe you have some kind of business you're about to launch. Maybe, whatever your reason is, it's a great way to speak to a ton of people, whether it's Like right now, we're speaking, right? It's not a formal speech, but we're speaking, and we're speaking to all of you. And hopefully that, transcends to more and more people. Um, it's a great launching pad for sure, for any part of your business. So what are you going to implement in there to activate your business, right? Julie.
Yeah, so I mean, activating is a big thing, right? How do you pull your story together with what you're doing? Most of us are doing what we're doing because of our story, right? So I shared the story of that. My experience within corporate and with women was so incredibly derogatory. I was driven to create She Talks, which of course has become this full-fledged giant company. But that was my story was essential to what I was doing. That was what was driving me to what I was developing and designing. So you need to be able to connect your story to what you're doing. And most of us do what we do because we have a passion about it. I mean, even if you're selling a product, you've created that product for a reason to help someone to solve a problem. You've created that service for a reason. So connecting your story to that. And there are some very great ways to do it. And I'm big now, there's nothing wrong with selling on stage, but I'm big with letting your story sell it for you, meaning that you don't have to sell because your story is so powerful. It will invoke people to want to know more about your service, your product, or your retreat, or whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah, sorry, I fell behind a little bit on the slides, but
That's
uh,
okay.
yeah. So we're trying to create a strategy, right? You don't do anything in business without a strategy. One has to fall into the other, into the other, into the other. So when you're speaking, you probably have some type of platform, like I said before, where you're either going on different stages or on the next stage. So what you're trying to do is create a momentum where people will continue following you, and whether they are there live or over Zoom or just following up on social media, you want to create a storyline. In social media, people like following stories, and if there's some kind of movement that's happening, if you could create a movement out of your story, then even better, right? Like She Talks does has a great example of what how she empowers, the whole community empowers each other, and they build from one thing to the next, the next, and the next. So just remember, when you are building your brand, okay, what is your brand and your values all about? Okay, what is your vision? Understand that. And when you implement it into your talk, you will also have that strategy of what's next and what's next after that and what's next after that. You have to think long term, because that way you have a direction as to where you're going with your talk and how you're going to build off it.
And what I like to do is I have the formula I kind of work within, which is what we're showing here, but a little deeper is I start with a belief. That belief builds my brand. That brand builds my business. That business creates my movement. And don't let the idea of movement make you think that a movement only has to be like, oftentimes we think movement is a cause, right? Like we want to help a country with clean water. That could be a movement. But your movement could be that you have the best product out there. And maybe it's helping the environment. And in turn, they want to purchase your product. And that can be a movement, right? Movement is what makes people want what you have. So a lot of times I see the mistake is that people create a brand, but they don't have a reason or why behind it. So the great brands have a story, and it has the why and the how and the movement. So a lot of people start with the product or the service instead of starting with the belief. And so that's how I like to create my process, even with the retreats, right? What's your belief? How does that belief turn into a brand? How does it turn into a business and a movement? And how is that put into a retreat? And so I like to focus on that way because I find a lot more success in that process versus just, hey, let me sell you something that I don't have a how and a why. You need that.
Yeah, if you don't have a how and a why, first of all, your business is going to fall apart fast. Because if you don't understand your why, it means you don't even have that passion behind it. Like you need that why to be very, very strong, because in any business that you're in, there's challenges. And if the why isn't strong enough, the challenges will overcome you and you will give up, you'll get frustrated and all of that stuff. If your why is big enough, your story will be connected. and you'll surpass all of the challenges that come ahead with, being an entrepreneur. So, yeah, so, just as it shows here, there's a bunch of things you could do, right? A lot of repurposing content out of talking, right? There's so much you can do, social media, YouTube videos, articles out of it, blogs, et cetera, et cetera. So here's where we continue on the activation, is like ideas of how to continue growing after the talk. So it doesn't just stop. And the same thing with retreats, by the way. People think, oh, to fill out a retreat, it's a big deal. Yeah, it's a big deal. And it's not the beginning. It's not the end, because people kind of think the retreat is the end. No, the retreat is actually your launching pad. That's where you forge a lot of the relationships and you move forward. So you always have to have a strategy with every step that you take in your business. So it could look like webinars and workshops. It could be exclusive access to maybe some VIP event, maybe to your coaching. Maybe you have products to sell. Maybe you have a community that you want them to be a part of, a membership. There's some kind of lead capture always, 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 always. Okay. Is there any other things you want to add to that, Julie?
Yeah, community building is probably the most powerful aspect of this, right? Because once you build a community, there's so much power within that community. And a lot of times people kind of miss this. They go for big and tons of people and sales and leads and funnels, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there's nothing more powerful than a community. And most businesses, 90% of the money that comes in is return clients or clients who have referred other people to that, because there's a lot of power in that. So when you think about the community building, I think that's a huge aspect of that. Another part is I always lead any of this, I lead with a story. I work on giving my audience a win in all different one of these categories, right? It's webinar, community building, exclusive access. How do we give them a win, right? Because people need to have a win on that. And then if you're sharing your mission within each of these, it takes away that pitch feeling, right? Where people feel like they're being pitched, which Catherine mentioned that earlier, like it's so acting that it feels fake, right? And so making sure that when you're building these things out, that you have these aspects in it. Two, you may need to do every single one of these. Why? Because everyone's at a different spot, right? Some people really want webinars and workshops. Some people really want community. Some people really want that exclusive VIP experience. And so it's really important to make those options available. I'm working with a woman right now who has 169 different community groups running. It's amazing what she's doing in building community. Each one of those groups has a different theme. And so that theme allows people to come into a lot of different brackets in the community building. And then when she does a big thing, all of those communities come in. So you can keep that in mind when you think about community building, as what type of community you want to build, what groups are you trying to hit. Start small, and a lot of times a little more niche you can get, the better, right? Because everyone's doing leadership, right? You look around, everyone's doing leadership. How do you present a unique aspect of leadership to bring people into your webinars, your workshops, your retreats and community?
Yeah. Retreats without community, there's 0 people there, right? Not a good idea. A lot of people ask me often, do I need a community to have a retreat? Yeah, you do, unless you are using other people's community. So you're the host, but you're inviting a bunch of people who are going to lead by, I don't know, maybe someone who's helping with speaking, maybe another person who's helping with marketing, whatever. That's the only time you don't need a community, because you're not using your own, you're using the people that you're hiring to have that community. So very, very important. So, basically with retreats, it starts right from understanding where your values again and your vision. Usually when we host retreats, whether it's business, whether it's personal, like in a wellness space, etc., transformational, we often mirror what we were transformed by. We want to help others do what created and happened in us. So always think of that when you are putting it out there. Who are the people that would be interested in my type of retreat? When you're going from a stage where you're speaking, you're going to attract the people. They're going to come to you. Literally, they will come to you and tell you that was incredible. That transformed me. That made me cry. That really connected me with me. Whatever it is, they're literally going to ask you, do you have a book? What else is coming up? Is there something like they want to continue? They want to continue the journey with you. And this is where you can capture them with many offers, like we said before. But one of them is to create a community. Okay, you're not going to tell them, well, come to my retreat. You could if one is happening and you already have your community. But if not, you make them join a community with you. You bring them into your world. A Facebook group is not your world. Facebook owns that world, not you. One wrong thing, let me tell you, I just went through 2 months of hell with them. They could shut you down like this. Okay, there was like an admin access problem with mine, and I didn't realize, I knew it from before. It's like you are so vulnerable to them. What you want to do is take them off social media, bring them where you're, on stage where you're speaking, and then to inside your community, inside your retreats, and all of that. So make sure you do have a landing page at minimum to capture their information, and then to bring them inside your community, whatever that may look like. It might be in-person communities, it might be something with a platform online, but away from where other people have control or other businesses, and where you have control. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say that I think you can build, for those who are using Go High Level, I know you can build communities in there. I'm not techie, so my husband does it, but there's also, like, we use the Locals app. It's a Locals community app, and you can build your own community within it, and you have full control. So you never have to worry about what Catherine said with the Facebook group, because it's so true on that.
Yeah, there's so many platforms you could be on. There's Circle, there's School, it depends on what your goal is. Some people might want to just have somewhere to gather. Maybe other people want to put like libraries and courses and all of that. Depending on what you want to do, again, think long term, because you don't want to have to restart and restart and restart. Think long term. How do you want your community to look like? How do you want to build on it? How much of yourself do you want in it? Okay, because it does take up time if you're by yourself. What team will you need? All of that stuff. When you decide all that, then you look and you research as to what's the best platform for you, what resonates with you, and then, go with it. How much money can you make off of a retreat? A lot of people, when it's their first time, they're like, oh, I just want to break even. You're not breaking even, I promise you. You're actually losing money, because you're just thinking what the retreat's costing you. What about the 100 hours that you placed in planning it? Okay? Who got paid? Not you, if you're breaking even, right? So how do you strategically price your retreat to make 25 to 50,000? You're thinking, oh my God, how's that possible? Yes, it's possible. I'm not talking about 100 people or 50 people. I'm talking about with 15 people, and you're not gouging your clients either. What you're doing is, there's a few things. You're negotiating in a way where it's smart. Okay, there's certain ways of getting the pricing incredibly low compared to what everybody else gets. Okay, and often that's hiring an agency. When you are on your own negotiating with hotels, et cetera, they're giving you the general price. When you hire an agency, okay, for example, RetreatBoss, a travel agency or whatever it is, okay, to negotiate for you, they're getting prices that will probably save you $10, $15 to $30,000. That's what I've seen, okay? So already you're starting at a lower price, okay, cost. And then you're strategically pricing where you understand that you want to make, let's say you want to make even $1,000 per person, okay? And then, so that would be your profit. But also, what are you doing while you have them there? It's literally marketing gold. Do you know how much it costs to sell, to place an ad 30 to 60 seconds on radio or even on Facebook? It's very, very expensive. And that's if you will grab their attention. If you will grab their attention. But when you have them at a retreat, they literally pay to be there with you. They love what you're doing. They love your program. They love everything about you. Trust me, they just want to buy off you even more. Make sure everything is there for them to see. I'm not saying waste 1 or 2 hours of their time selling them. No, that's not what you want. but make it available for them. Okay. And through those upsells and all of that stuff that, obviously you would have to be strategic about how you do it. You are making $25,000 to $50,000 if you know what you're doing. Okay. If it's strategically placed and done. So literally when I say it's a launching pad, it's a launching pad for making money. Okay. When it comes to that, it's a launching pad for your community because you're forging relationships that were, nice and formal, maybe over Zoom. But when you go into the element of in person and at a retreat where you're spending all this time with people, trust me, you are leaving with best friends coming out of there. You are leaving with business connections. You are leaving with memories. You are leaving with, if it's a business style thing, with new information that will help you thrive either personally or in your business. So there's a lot of powerful elements that can come out of a retreat. Okay. Do you want to add to that, because I know you've had experience with retreats?
Yeah, there's a lot of power. One in particular, I dropped it in the chat we do is called Beach Bum Millionaire Mastermind. And it goes along with the story, basically how I transformed my mindset. Because a lot of times people think they can't make a lot of money, right? That's usually the first hiccup, right, with retreats. Like you're saying, people all the time are like, if I just break even. Well, that's people sometimes for some reason feel bad about making money off of their passion. There's nothing wrong with that. You're the expert in the industry and you should get paid for your expertise. So first, if people are not wanting to pay your price, you might be in the wrong community and you may need to find the right community for that. So the other thing is there's nothing wrong with making that money and making sure that you price it, as Catherine said, really well, right? And working with a company is great. When we first started my events company, I worked with several different travel planners and different people to really understand, like, what should I price it and what are people willing to pay? And what is it that I'm delivering? Like, one of the big things I always say when you're delivering a retreat is what is broken, what is missing, and what are you offering to fix? Because that's what people want to know. So when we do our Beach Bum Millionaire Mastermind, people say to me all the time, oh, like, how do I do what you're doing? Well, the biggest part of that is mindset, right? Where I spent a lot of years in sports learning mindset. So part of that retreat is I'm helping people shift their mindset from a poverty point of view to a wealth point of view and a generational wealth, right? So when you look at like these things you're doing and pricing, you have to look at the value. If you price it too cheap, you are devaluing yourself, your product, and your service by just giving it away. And if you know all the greats out there, all the multimillionaires and billionaires, do they give away that stuff for free? No, that's why they're millionaires and billionaires. So really thinking about the value of what you have and pricing it is important. And, Catherine's group, I know, does all this and bouncing it off people. Like, would you pay for that? And why would you pay for that? And if you are going to pay for that, what do you expect to get for it? So pricing is important. I see a lot of unfortunately failed retreats that happen where people break even and they're in the hole and they hope that they'll upsell to make that money. That doesn't always happen. So the pricing is so important.
Yeah, when you're deciding to price, you got to also understand your community, like Julie mentioned. Is your community the type that will pay 1,000 or 20,000, right? If you have been following your values and your mission and you're truly authentic to you and your brand, right? You should have that answer before you price. You should have that. If you don't know that, it's because you didn't do the foundation work that you need to do, which is so important in any business, not retreats. This is literally business 101. Understand your mission, your vision, your values always, and who your niche is. If you don't know that, then when we come to the pricing stage, you know, no matter what, you're still going to guess a little bit, but you're going to validate that. And it's going to come back to you. You're going to validate. You're going to go out there and you're going to validate it. And you're going to see if you got it on point or you don't, right? People can say, no, that's too expensive. Or I don't like international travel. I don't want to go to Mexico. I want to stay in the United States. I want to stay in Canada, whatever it is. Okay. You got to understand your group of people that are following you. So are you going to do luxury or are you going to do tents? Right? What big difference. And luxury could mean so many different things for every person. It depends on your perspective. My idea of luxury may not be the same as Julie's, right? It might be very different. Different calibers. There's, 100,000 luxury or there's 1,000,000+ luxury, right? Private jets. What's luxury to these people, to your niche? So you really have to understand who you are speaking to and what resonates with them. Okay. The last thing, which is very important, what you want to do during a retreat, and by the way, there could be speaking at a retreat, right? You could be speaking at a retreat. We get people hired at retreats just to speak, okay? Design it with purpose. That means every single decision you make, from the food to the venue to the program to all of that, to the way everything is being presented and the timing of it all, has to create micro behaviors of change to create the ultimate impact by the end of it. Okay, understand that. Micro behaviors of change is what you want to have. So why did you choose the venue that you chose, right? Why did you choose Tuscany? Well, because Tuscany is a wine, I want to do a wine and food pairing, and I want people to go, into nature and pick out their own vegetables and the tomatoes, and we'll have a chef cooking it for us and helping us and showing us how to, it depends on what your goal is, right? So imagine if you take that purpose-minded decision making and you put it for every step of everything that you do. Maybe there's a ritual that happens, right, when you're presenting the food, because maybe you're on indigenous land and your retreat's about that, right? So what's the ritual? Add that ritual in there. Whatever that is. If you do all of this and you have a full, whatever that is, whatever full is in your retreat, and you design this with purpose, I promise you, you will have a marketing cheerleading group, okay? They will be posting, they will be sharing, they will bring friends, they will sign up for the next retreat, which, by the way, should be ready at the day when you're holding the retreat, to sign up for the next one, right? They will be signing up for everything that you have to offer because they just experienced something really transformative, really, really
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with that because like when I look at, my formula that I use with, taking a belief and building a brand, I think to myself, like, how in this retreat can I express this belief, which will help build the brand? Who needs to hear this? Why is this person coming? Why do they need this? What changes will happen if these people take this retreat and they take what I give them, right? Like there's so much power in that action plans and challenges. But probably the most powerful thing is if your community, as we said, return customers are a huge part of a successful company. And if those return customers bring a friend with them, wow, right? Like, and I've been just watching another client of mine. So she does retreats, which is, these are not necessarily like a big 3-day retreat, but it's one day you come in, they do like this 8-course meal with like a pretty popular chef in that state. And each part of the meal that comes out, a story is told about the cultural heritage of that food and what's behind it. Talk about powerful. Her thing is going like national now, and powerful because people love learning about the history and the heritage of food. And it's a really cool retreat, which she's, now charging a lot for, which she should, because it's exceptional, a lot of work. But how powerful is that she's able to give people a piece of history from what they're eating? And so, she's now using that belief system of, hey, I think people should be educated on the history of food to create these retreats across the US. She was like just in her state. So there's a power in that. And then she got invited to another really big company, had her come in and do this. And so, when you're looking at those, the breakthrough delivery is so important, right? Because people walk away, they need to have that breakthrough. If they walk away feeling like they didn't have that breakthrough, then that's where you're going to start to lose some of your community. Now, you can't make everyone happy, and everyone's in a different spot in their life. So you may make, out of those 10 people at your retreat, 9 of them incredibly happy and 1 not. Not much you can do about that, because sometimes people just aren't in a place to receive like they need to. But if, you can have a majority of the community really happy with that, that's powerful. And I think I just want to say this too, Catherine, that whenever you throw a retreat, there's always going to be someone who complains. It's part and parcel of events. And so you can I've thrown phenomenal events. People are like, this was life-changing. I love it. And then there's that one person that comes up and tells you they think it was terrible. Don't let that derail you. For part of the world that you're going to get that type of person who says that. But if you're 95% are happy with it, you know you did something right. And there's nothing wrong with constructive feedback. I'm talking about people who just give, feedback that's just mean, right? Mean or terrible. Constructive feedback, great. Welcome that any day. But someone who just says, I think this was terrible, that's not constructive feedback. So I
Yeah.
like to throw that out because have you had that, Catherine, where like you throw this phenomenal event and everyone loves it and there's that one person that just needs to rain on your parade?
It's part of business,
Yeah.
period. You can never make, whether you have a community, a retreat, an event, there's always, going to be some people that are just not happy with whatever you do. It's just not aligned for them, and that's okay. That's okay. If it's not aligned for them, they could, like it doesn't have, they don't have to stay. Nobody's forcing them. So, very important to know that. So I think, hold on. Okay. Sorry, I just had to mute someone. Okay, so yeah, so basically that's it. Don't worry about the one person that's in life, like I said, in general, you'll always have that one person that wants to be the downer of the group or something like that, and that's okay. But you can avoid a lot of it if you vet, okay? Vet who's coming to your retreat via, I prefer like actually talking to them rather than just an application form, because you really get the energy and the vibe and all of that. And they've got to connect, they got to connect with your energy. And it's good. Not only they're vetting you too, right? So you're vetting each other. Like, do you want to spend $10,000 to be at my retreat? Right? Is it worth it for you? If it's not, it's not. Are you going to connect with the people? I need you to connect with the other people that are there, because whatever we can do as hosts, let me tell you, what happens with the group is another completely other element of transformation that happens. You just sit there and watch and you're going, oh my God, what's happening right now? I had no idea this was going to happen. This is freaking amazing, right? So that has to happen during your retreat. Now, when you're thinking of speaking at a retreat, you have to understand what that retreat is about and what the goal and vision is and the mission is. Don't go for it just for the money. Be sure that you really resonate with whatever this retreat is doing and happening, because if they do badly, it's going to actually, even if you do well, it's not going to look great. There's always like this element of, about the retreat. Make sure you really resonate with the people that are hosting the retreat and what their mission and vision is. Don't just do it for the money. Go there and understand, how am I going to design, again, my speech with purpose to really impact them even more at this retreat. Okay? So understand that you have to put certain elements in it that will really hit. So integration, post-retreat support. Retreats start before the retreats. They finish after the retreats, meaning you need to have something before to prime them, okay? Make sure you're priming them with some kind of activity, a meet and greet, whatever it is. So when they do come, they're already kind of, halfway there, because you've done a certain activity or something to make sure that they're in the right frame of mind when they're coming into the retreat. Follow-ups, of course, retreats, a lot of stuff happen. If yours was amazing, it should impact them long-term, but there needs to be a follow-up for many reasons. Number one, to continue that impact and transformation that they experienced, to continue any education that's needed, to continue your business, right? It could be part of a mastermind also. Those are fantastic. Any high-level coach has a mastermind and a retreat, always. And they're usually together, right? So make sure there's something happening afterwards to continue the progress in the community. You want to be building, right? Whether it's your coaching program, certifications, connections, community, all of that stuff. Capture testimonials during the retreat. Don't let them leave without a testimonial. You have video set up, something really Instagram, beautiful for them to like go in front of, and with your brand behind it and saying, this was phenomenal. I loved Julie's retreat. It changed everything about me and my life and what I'm seeing going forward. And, look at how you can scale from going forward with that. Okay. Yeah, Julie?
Yeah, I mean, everything you're saying is perfect. And follow-up is probably the most important thing, because people get on what we call like the mountaintop high, right? Where you're just like right in the high. It was an amazing retreat. But a big thing for me is a lot of times people don't implement then what they learned, right? They come back down from that mountaintop high, they get busy, or a lot of times my pet peeve is not giving a deliverable or a challenge so they can implement that afterwards. So I really like workbooks a lot. I know it's a little old school in our technology era. I love something to take home. I love something that I take notes in. I'm a big note taker. So getting a workbook or something that allows me to take that with me is important. Action steps, right? Challenges. Okay, what's the next thing they have to do when they leave is important. Obviously, the coaching program certification, all of that is really important. But once again, that return customer is going to happen, or that return customer is going to refer if you have action steps, so they can not only say, I went to this retreat and it was amazing, but I went to this retreat and I implemented what Catherine gave me, and wow, I saw results, right? That's a really impactful thing, because I'm sure some of you have gone to events, which it all sounds good, but then it's like, well, what do I do? How do I get there? And a lot of times that getting there isn't in there, right? So creating those opportunities, I think, are really important when you're doing all of this. And the testimonial capture, huge. I'm big on, we have a camera set up there. We have a camera guy. We make sure to catch those testimonials there on video, because if you don't, it is so hard to track those down later. So the last time we did our Beach Bum Millionaire Mastermind, we made sure that, we specifically took a break time to get testimonials on the second day. So we actually said, like, all right, we're going to take a break, we're going to get some snacks, and we're going to do testimonials. And so definitely make sure you do that, because that is the next powerful thing in your kit of, like, as Catherine said, you have your next retreat ready to go. You're going to be telling them about it at that retreat. Well, those testimonials will then move it to the next one. And that's really powerful too. So I think, each one of these are really important. And if you're not great at this, get someone to help you with it, right? If you're not great at video, you really want to have good videos with good audio. So make sure you've got someone who does video and you've got mics, right? If you're not great at follow-ups, get yourself an assistant to help you with those follow-ups, right? The more you can automate, the more you can logistically set this up, the more streamlined it's going to be, and every retreat's going to get easier and easier. So don't be afraid to utilize someone or some tech as well, right? Because you may have so many phone calls, you can't get to them all. Well, how do you make sure you get to them in a timely manner? So I think those are all really, really important. I love to always have some giveaway too that they take back with them from the retreat. We've done like customized journals, wine glasses with the name of the retreat, shirts, but people love that stuff, and it's a marking piece for you. So then as they're drinking their wine with your friend, oh, well, what's that? What's that on that cup there? Oh, I see you're writing notes in a journal that has a customized name. So give them something to take with you, and then they become your marketing person. But I think each one of these aspects, steps 1 through 5, are really important to do each one of those, because you can't scale. And Catherine, I know you can attest to this because you work with so many people at retreats. You cannot scale if you don't put these things in place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And a lot of people just skip this whole step. And it's like, when they plan a retreat, it's like, it's great, but what are you getting out of it after that? It's a one-off. You go to an event, it's a one-off. You do a speaking engagement, it's a one-off. You've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's what you've lost by not creating this scalability, formula. Okay, very, very important. So there's many ways to scale, as we mentioned before, but maybe you could reach to having multiple retreats, multiple speaking engagements. You can license and certify people. Julie, go ahead and talk about that, because I know you do license people, right?
Yeah, so I mean, we've created a licensing option for our She Talks, which allows people to create a customized platform using our process. And let me just tell you, I love licensing, not franchising, licensing. Licensing is important because you can still control your brand and your quality and your level, and then people have to re-up. So the woman I mentioned earlier that has 169 programs, which I think I saw someone say that's hard to believe. So what she's done, though, is she's trained and licensed people, and they are running those platforms for her. So they get trained, they pay her a small licensing fee to help her build the communities. That's why she's tripling and quadrupling communities like crazy, right? Now, what she's also done is pre-programmed things. So all our videos are done, all the content, it can all be delivered, right? And so she preps her communities by delivering all this content. Then she does the retreats and she activates them in the virtual program so they're ready to jump into the retreat. So licensing is a great way to protect your information, get it out on a faster scale, but still contain the quality and making sure it's yours. So that's a great way. You're welcome to, pop in and have a meeting with me if you're interested in licensing or learning how to license. But when you get to put on your own event with your own platform, but you have everything done for you, because that's what our licensing does, right? And you get access to the She Talks platform. It's very, very powerful because you have a preset community already versus having to build it. And so Stacy, who did this, she took her community, our community, put them together, and is now building this kind of new community out of that. And so she's used our licensing platform to keep building more and more communities. So there's a lot of power in that. And just making sure you do it right with your brand. There are a few tricks that you have to be careful. As soon as you license it, someone's going to copy you. So so you have to watch out for that, but there's a lot of power in that. I don't really like the franchising. There's so much money and cost to it. Not saying it's wrong, but licensing is like a fast way to get it out there.
Yeah. Yeah. It is amazing. The 169 communities. I'm amazed by that too. I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
What an overachiever.
She is. But I mean, it's so smart. When I sat in with her and she showed it to me, I was like, okay, you're brilliant. Like, it was brilliant.
Yes, definitely.
I mean, she's got it down. And so obviously I don't think I need 169 communities, but I was impressed with her process, right? And then every community loves what she's doing. She activates them and then she moves it into a retreat, and it's just powerful. And so, if you can find your angle, right? And of course, it took a little time. Obviously, she had to set up the process and streamline it and train people before that actually built into that. But you can just see there is a way to do it, and she's super successful with it. And it's slightly overwhelming. She invited me to check out all 106 communities.
Really? No kidding.
She gave me access to all of them, and I was like, I don't know what to do. But yeah. So there's power in that. And I always, right, the motto, work smarter, not harder. With technology today, we can duplicate ourselves and we create processes that are pretty streamlined and even pretty personal. I mean, if you guys are using AI, wow, right? Like, AI is creating things that is blowing my mind right now. And I'm like, take advantage of it, because we all know how to read and write and market and brand. We all know to do that. We've all been doing that for, years and years and years. But having technology be able to do it for you 10 times faster, so powerful. So don't be afraid to utilize that too with, everything you're doing, digital programs, licensing, certifying. That's a great thing. Certifying and what is it? I know LinkedIn gives out badges, but that's another great program. You don't have to use LinkedIn. You can actually get programs that will create badges and certifications if they go through certain levels. So it'll automatically do that. And I love that program because you can start giving people badges in your community without having to, do it through LinkedIn or other groups.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of different platforms that allow for that. So here's the potential of what you could be making. First you launch with a retreat, and some basic coaching. You're making about this. Oops, sorry, I pressed the wrong thing. You could be making, between 150 and 150K in addition to whatever you're making in your business, right? Year two, if you've done this first and you're like, okay, we've got everything, all the quicks out, we know what we're doing, whatever. You want to go to 2 or 4 retreats, right? Online programs. You'll need a team at this point, right? Understand that. Okay. Okay. And you have your online programs. And I didn't even put speaking in here. How much you're making in speaking engagements as well. Okay. And year 3, you're headed to, the international tours and all of that stuff. I see it all the time. You just got to have a proper vision. Okay. Never change your vision, because usually your vision is what is in your heart and soul. The strategy will need tweaking, I promise you. You're going to mess up on the strategies a few times before you get it right. And once you get it right, it's just rinse and repeat, and just grow and grow and grow and grow. So first, like we said, have your story, okay? You need your story. If you need help creating that story, I'm sure Julie could, point you to the right direction. You need your people. Who are you speaking to? Where do you start? Where do you start, right? Start within yourself first. Remember, understand who you are in order to present and attract the right people. That's where you start. I know it sounds kind of backwards, but you really got to understand who you are and what you want, and your why. Your why is very, very important. And how do you want to show up to people? Okay? That really has to do with what I just said. Authentically yourself. That's how you want to show up to people. So what makes everything possible? Strong positioning, obviously. When you are leading, people are following, okay? You're going to do it through your talks. You're on stage. You're the leader. They're watching you, okay? A community is more of, it's not they're watching you. You are participating with them. Make sure it's purpose-driven so it could create that kind of movement that we were talking about. And all that creates a leadership where you can lead retreats, you can lead more talks, you can lead summits, et cetera, et cetera. Align with people that are seeking the same thing as you, the values and the vision that you may have that they want to be part of. Create an incredible synergy like she talks in RetreatBoss, right? And, understand that there's low ticket prices and there are high ticket prices. This is like, all of these are literally entire modules in my certification program. So, and I'm sure Julie talks about it all the time. There's we could talk endless about this stuff, but a lot of this has intricacies. We're generalizing it right now. But Julie, if you want to add to any of the final comments here.
I mean, this, like I said, I all of these 1 through 4 is super, super important to do. And probably, like I said, if you're not a practice speaker, paid speaker yet, really getting that story down and your why is really, really important. Everyone wants to be a paid speaker, and it's a tough market out there right now. So creating your own retreats and you speaking is a really great way to not only start you out as a speaker, but to get the video you need to create your scissor reel to open you up to other opportunities. So I think that's really important because, a lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to go be a paid speaker. It's tough out there. So my philosophy has always been, if you're not going to give me a seat, I'm just going to build my own table and make my own spot and create that, right? So that's what I did for myself. Because I was like, oh, one time someone said to me, Julie, this was early on, I was very young. They said, oh, you haven't made millions and millions. You really don't deserve a spot on the stage to speak. And I was like, well, Mother Teresa hasn't made millions either, but she has a great story to tell, right? So they basically said I couldn't tell my story unless I'd made a lot of money. And I was like, well, let's just see about that. So I was like, I'm going to tell my story. And if I have to create my own platform to deliver it, then I will, right? And so sometimes you have to do that to get yourself out there as a speaker first, because you are competing with really big names. So create your platform, bring the people to you, let them hear your story, and let the power of that and those people spread you and your story out, right? Because people talk. And so for those of you who might be new to speaking, now, if some of you are like, hey, I've been speaking a lot, I'm not getting the paid talks. Once again, let's create a space where you get paid to talk, right? Because we sometimes have to bring the people to us. There's a lot of noise out there. There's a million conferences. There's a million retreats. Who do you go to? Why do you do that? And so that goes back to community. If you can create the right community, there is so much power in that, right? And so finding a way to do that and start building that, and then each person keeps bringing it in. You got, 15 people in your community. Guess what? If all of them grab a person, now you've got 30. And then those people grab a person. Before you knew it, you can have thousands in your community who love your message and what you're doing. And then I spend very little on marketing and branding. Why? Because we have such a massive community. They do it for me. And I mean, I can't remember the last time I actually pitched for something. All the things I've gotten have been referred because they say such and such referred us to you. So that's the power in building that. So when you just think about that, I like people, don't get discouraged if you're trying to get that big paid speaking spot. Create it for yourself first, to go after that. So, but yeah, I just want to say, be persistent. Sometimes you have to have a lot of grit and courage in the industry of events and speaking in order to move forward. And so, if you've got that grit and courage and know your worth, most important thing, know that you are worthy to be on stage, you are worthy to be in front of those people, it's going to happen for you. It may not happen overnight, because I've been doing this for 20 something years, but it will happen for you. And so if any of you are running into that discouragement, I just want to encourage you to do that. And of course, use people like Catherine and her company. She has such a wealth of information and knowledge that can help launch you, which is so what I wish I had, 20 plus years ago.
Yeah, it's do not get discouraged at all, because it is a tough business, but you just need to get the experience and people to help you, like us and other people that are in here, I'm sure. I want to respect the time. It's 2:02, but we are going to stay on another 15 minutes just for people, for anybody that has any questions about either what we spoke about what you can get through out of all this. This is how you can stay connected to all of us here. There's Retreat Boss and Retreat Match. In our case, she talks for Julie. And we're just going to stop it here. But if you guys want any type of membership with She Talks, we'll put the link in there where it's all about the speaking engagements and how to elevate your brand. If you're looking for a certification program to build your retreats and your business, and as an add-on retreats, we do have certifications, and we also have memberships and the professional directory that we can help you with. So all those links are going to be here. We're also going to send out an email with all of that, plus a replay of this. So don't worry if you missed something, the replay will be available for you. And for those who want to leave right now, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. And for those who want to stay and continue the conversation for about another 10-15 minutes, we're here to answer any of your questions.